Welcome to the Cabinet of Science and Fiction. Today, we're diving deep into some really fascinating material. Stuff that makes you question, well, everything we think we know about the past.
Absolutely. We're looking at this collection of accounts, legends, even physical evidence that hints, well, more than hints, really, that maybe advanced civilizations existed here on Earth way, way before our recorded history.
Exactly. Like long before, maybe even before some kind of massive global disaster wiped the slate clean.
Right. So we'll be exploring these incredible ancient monuments, the ones where nobody really knows who built them or how.
And those persistent stories you find everywhere. Lost lands, huge floods.
And some really strange anomalies, things that just don't fit the neat timeline of human development we're usually taught.
Our mission today, then, is to sort of unpack all these ideas, look for the patterns, the recurring themes.
And see what insights pop out about our planet's really deep past. Maybe even find clues about forgotten knowledge.
Okay, so let's jump right in. This whole question of how old civilization really is, it's mind-boggling.
It really is. I mean, think about Sacsayhuaman in Peru. You've got these enormous stones fitted together perfectly, and the Inca, who were incredible builders themselves, they apparently had no idea who built the foundations. They just built on top of it.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. And it's not just there, is it? This idea of incredibly sophisticated stuff appearing before the known cultures.
It pops up all over, which ties into that point from the NASA commissioned report you mentioned. They noted how weird it is that agriculture, technology, math, astronomy, it all seems to just burst onto the scene around 10,000 years ago.
Right, in these hotspots like Mesopotamia, Egypt, Peru, China. Was it just spontaneous?
Yeah.
Everywhere at once?
Or does it point to something already being there, like inheriting knowledge from a civilization that came before?
It makes you rethink that whole steady climb of progress idea, doesn't it?
Totally. Maybe it's not a straight line up. What if it's more like cycles, rise and fall?
And the fall part, now that brings in the cataclysms.
Exactly. These massive events, huge floods, maybe asteroid impacts, who knows what else they could literally erase a civilization. Bury everything under miles of mud or water. All that's left are the toughest stone structures and these fragmented memories, these myths.
And it feels less like pure fantasy when you hear about, say, modern astronomers warning about potential threats.
It's like those Czech astronomers.
Yeah.
Yeah, identifying that meteor stream Earth passes through periodically and warning about the increasing risk of continent-damaging impacts within it.
Suddenly those ancient flood stories sound, well, a bit more plausible, maybe.
Precisely, and the sheer number of them. You look globally, and almost every culture has a major flood narrative.
Even going back to the Younger Dryas period, that big freeze around 11,000, 12,000 years ago.
A time we usually think was just primitive hunter-gatherers, right? But we find these sophisticated monuments that seem to date back to around then.
And the oral traditions, like the Hopi talking about 4 world destructions.
And the second one sounds uncannily like a pole shift, maybe triggered by something celestial.
Wow. And what about the Aymara in South America, their story of Mu, or Lemuria?
Yeah, this huge landmass in the Pacific that supposedly sank in a cataclysmic flood. And the survivors, according to the tradition, helped set up those early cities around Lake Titicaca.
It really resonates because you hear echoes everywhere. The Maya.
Oh, their accounts are vivid. Ruin, a piled-up sea, sticky rain, darkness, this horrible fiery noise.
Then you go to Polynesia,
Yeah.
and they talk about the sky being lifted up by winds and waterspouts.
And Mesopotamia, of course, the famous story of Utnapishtim, the flood preceded by a terrifying black cloud lasting 12 days. It's epic.
Even the Book of Enoch. Visions of meteorites going off course leading to a wall of water.
Right. And the Indian story of Manu, warned by a fish god to build a boat.
It's the consistency that's striking, isn't it? Global flood survivors, often some kind of warning or preserved knowledge.
It gets harder and harder to just dismiss it all as separate, unrelated myths. There's a core story there.
So moving from the myths to the physical clues, what stands out on the ground?
Well, you mentioned Lake Titicaca. Around there, you find geological signs of massive shock waves, tectonic shifts. It could explain how a place like Tiwanaku, with its huge stone blocks, got so utterly destroyed and scattered.
And you mentioned the Great Salt Lake earlier. The idea, it might have been formed by a massive tidal wave around 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's one theory. It fits the time frame we keep bumping into.
And what about those Waidaha traditions from New Zealand? That's fascinating stuff.
It really is. There's stories of the world being turned by water and then these children of the gods arriving afterwards. And they name names. Kiwa sailing from the east, Hotumatua from the west. which seems to connect directly to Easter Island.
Ipiro Dehenua, the navel of the world. Wow.
And their sacred site, Kura Tawiti, or Castle Hill, they call it the birthplace of the gods. Apparently it has this really powerful atmosphere. Even the Dalai Lama visited and commented on its energy.
And the stones themselves. Those eroded shapes that look like faces. Simulacra.
And they Waidaha talk about different groups. The early Tumatakokiri, the keepers of stone, and then later the Kanohi Karapa, the stone people, who arrived knowing how to shape stone, like the knowledge was reintroduced.
And astronomical alignments there, too, going back potentially thousands of years.
Some researchers suggest possible alignments pointing to dates like 10,400 BC, even 14,800 BC. It really pushes the boundaries of when people might have had sophisticated astronomical knowledge.
The Waidaha don't just remember one big flood, do they? They talk about later stuff, too.
Yeah, exactly. Accounts of falling stars, fiery darts, even a burning waka, like a canoe falling from the sky, which could potentially line up with known comet activity or maybe coronal mass ejections around 3150 BC and 20345 BC.
And they even remember a supervolcano around 24,500 BC.
And get this, an eyewitness account, they claim, of a comet impact so huge it reversed Earth's rotation and formed Lake Taupo.
That's staggering. If true, it changes everything.
It really does. It makes you think, okay, if civilizations that advanced existed that long ago,
what evidence would even be left after, tens or hundreds of thousands of years? Wouldn't most of it just vanish?
You'd think so. Erosion, geological changes, most structures would crumble, which is why some suggest looking for subtler clues.
Like what? Chemical traces?
Yeah, maybe unusual geological layers or even chemical anomalies like unexpected pollution signatures deep in sediment cores. Could that be a sign of a lost industrial past?
That's an interesting thought. But then we do have these megaliths that did survive, and they are just baffling.
Pumapunku. I mean, those andesite blocks in Bolivia, the precision is unbelievable.
The legends say assembled by magic, and looking at them, you almost understand why they'd say that.
It's not just rough shaping, they look machined. H-blocks fitting perfectly together. How did they do that with the supposedly primitive tools?
And Tiwanaku, nearby, that massive temple complex, seemingly wiped out by a flood around 11,000 BC.
But before that, the sun gate alone seems to encode incredible astronomical knowledge.
Like the Metonic cycle, Venus, Sirius, eclipses.
And depictions of animals like the Toxodon, which went extinct around that same time. It pins the knowledge to that period.
And looking at other sites in the Andes, like Cusco or Sacsayhuaman, you see layers, right? Different building styles.
Absolutely. And often the oldest layers show the most sophisticated stonework, better than what the Inca could apparently do later.
And that evidence of intense heat at Sacsayhuaman, 1,500 degrees Celsius. What could possibly do that back then?
It's a complete mystery. Local traditions often credit these oldest, most amazing sites, the huacas carved from rock to the Yapak Marchula.
The wise old ones.
Yeah.
From a time before memory.
Yeah. And many show really heavy erosion from water, even glaciers, suggesting incredible age, maybe back to the end of the last ice age.
Okay, another weird thread that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Bearded figures, like Viracocha in the Andes.
Right. In regions where the native populations are generally beardless, it's an anomaly.
Does that connect back to the Mara story of Mu, the sunken land?
It's certainly suggestive, isn't it? And it's not just South America. Think about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
Built by supposed hunter-gatherers, maybe 12,000 years ago.
An incredibly complex site. And its old name, Portisar, navel, or umbilical cord. Like it was a source point, a place where divine knowledge was seated.
And the fact that they deliberately buried it after using it for centuries, any theories why?
Some speculate it relates to sky-ground dualism, maybe tracking the slow shift of the stars due to Earth's precession over millennia, acknowledging the changing cosmos by burying the old alignment.
Wow. And the pillars themselves, those T-shapes?
With the long arms pointing to the navel area, anthropomorphic, and those symbols on the belts, the H and U shapes.
That T symbol. You mentioned it connects to Breath of God in other cultures. Yucatan, Japan, China, Hopi.
And the H often representing cosmic balance. It suggests a shared symbolic language across vast distances and times.
And those containers they're sometimes shown holding, the Keet or Bandudu.
Yeah, linked to containers of knowledge, reminiscent of the Mesopotamian Apkallu sages, or figures like Quetzalcoatl in Central America. It hints at these bearers of wisdom, maybe survivors spreading knowledge after a cataclysm.
We also hear historical accounts of unusual peoples appearing, don't we? like the Mandan tribe.
Right, in North America. Described by early European explorers as fair-skinned, sometimes with blue eyes and European features. Where did they come from?
And that round structure in Abu Dhabi, Al Ain,
Yeah.
looking like the Chulpa Towers near Titicaca.
With similar equinox-aligned entrances, it's hard to dismiss that as pure coincidence. It suggests contact somehow across oceans.
Then there are legends from places like New Guinea.
About the men belong time before. Culturally superior people arriving in big canoes, leaving megaliths and petroglyphs, and then just vanishing.
And the Pacific Islands. Tonga, Samoa, they're myths of original homelands, navels of the earth.
Hawaii? Maybe remnants of a sunken continent.
Yeah.
Or sites built by survivors trying to recreate something lost.
And Orion. Why was Orion so important to so many ancient cultures?
That's a huge question. Its position on the horizon at key dates in the past, like 13,000 BC, 9,500 BC, could they have been marking cataclysms or new beginnings?
And those strange Paracas skulls from Peru.
Very strange. Larger cranial volume, no sagittal suture down the middle, the hole at the base of the skull in a different place. They don't seem to be typical Homo sapiens. Were there other types of humans around?
It makes you wonder what else we're missing, like that Kaimanawa wall in New Zealand.
Yeah, those layers of precisely cut, polished megaliths, and the hint of a sealed chamber below.
In the Mary Council's reaction, initially not interested, then banning excavation, even though huge stone structures aren't typical of their known traditions.
It's puzzling. And then you have Gunung Padang in Indonesia,
The step pyramid dated back potentially 22,000 BC.
with clear damage around 9,600 BC, right in that Younger Dryas time frame. It just blows conventional timelines for sophisticated construction out of the water.
And Baalbek, Lebanon, those stones.
Colossal isn't the word. Some estimate up to 1,650 tons. Moved somehow. Placed perfectly. It looks like it was built by giants for eternity.
And aligned to the winter solstice sunrise around 20,000 BC. The time scales are just staggering.
Which brings us to Egypt. Could the really big stuff, the pyramids, the Sphinx, actually be much older than the dynastic Egyptians?
The idea that even later pharaohs weren't sure who built them.
Right. Star shaft alignments might point to 2450 BC for the Great Pyramid, but then you have Pharaoh Amenhotep II, centuries later, referring to them poetically but not naming Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, as if their true origin was already lost to time.
So the pyramids and Sphinx might share a time frame, maybe that 10,400 BC period, end of the Ice Age.
It's a possibility strongly considered by some researchers, and it ties into those ancient Egyptian and Arab traditions.
Saying the pyramids were built before a great flood, by an antediluvian king warned of a coming cataclysm.
Exactly. As a repository of knowledge, a safeguard, aligning with the time frame mentioned in Enoch for a coming disaster.
And of course, Plato's Atlantis story, learned from Egyptian priests.
A powerful civilization on an island destroyed suddenly, sinking in a day and a night, a cautionary tale passed down for millennia about these cycles.
The Maya, too, with their incredibly long calendar cycles.
Suggests vast periods of observation, doesn't it? Immense antiquity for their knowledge, whether developed by them or inherited.
You keep hearing about these civilizing figures arriving after disasters, priestly types, lords of the sky, like the Itzá in Yucatan.
Often described with those non-local features, again, Caucasian looks, beards like Itzamna, and the geology there shows repeated tsunami destruction and rebuilding. The stories match the ground evidence.
Even ancient historians like Herodotus and Pliny knew about lands being submerged.
They were aware of sea level changes, catastrophic events shaping the coastlines. It wasn't seen as pure myth back then.
And the water erosion evidence on temples in Malta and on the Giza Plateau,
in areas that have been hyper-arid for thousands of years, suggests heavy rainfall after they were built, pushing their construction back before maybe 8,000 BC into a wetter period, antediluvian.
the underwater temple found off Malta, too.
Adds to that picture of submerged coastal civilizations, and Malta's hypogeum, that underground temple complex.
With the strange acoustics that induce altered states, a bit like the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, suggesting maybe shared knowledge about sound, consciousness resonance, and what happened to those elongated dolichocephalic skulls found there. They vanished.
Adding more mystery. Plus, the underwater finds off the Azores, Cuba, pyramids, structures.
It all points towards sunken lands, lost cities, fitting these global narratives.
So many myths globally talk about, well, projectiles from the sky, floods, and then survivors being helped.
Often by these unusual beings who come from the sea, teaching the arts of civilization.
Like the Vedic idea of yugas ending in these Peleas catastrophes.
And the need to preserve knowledge. selecting wisdom keepers, the seven sages, the Saptarishis to carry it through the destruction and restart things.
Or the Japanese Shinto story of the sky kami descending in a skyrock boat.
To civilize a desolate world, and the Jaman people claiming their ancestors were gods who settled Japan around 12,000 years ago. The sheer number of megalithic dolmens in Korea, too.
And legends of flying vehicles, Vimanas in India, traditions in Japan, Indochina.
And the Wataha story again of master craftsmen arriving after the flood, bringing the knowledge of stone shaping back.
What about descriptions of these gods or helpers?
Often tall, shining, sometimes long-headed like the Aku Shemsu Hor in Egypt, sometimes Caucasian-looking with buttes like the Lolos in China. Often linked to serpent symbolism too, like the Kanul, the serpent people in the Yucatan, seen as wisdom bringers.
Let's loop back to Mesopotamia, the Anunnaki and their origin, Dilmun.
Described as this paradise, land of springs, cedars, twin mountains, maybe not Bahrain, maybe further east, now underwater.
And their records claiming immense timescales. Belrusu talking about sages like Oanings.
The Apkallu, fish-like beings coming from the sea before the flood to teach humanity everything: building, farming, writing, law. And then Sumerian civilization seems to appear quite suddenly, fully formed. Where did that language come from?
It sounds similar to the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, beings with advanced knowledge interacting with early humans.
The Urshu, or Neter, in Egypt, perhaps. Enoch talks about conflict, forbidden knowledge shared, leading to the flood as a cleansing.
Does the placement of ancient sites offer clues? So many are at high altitudes. Cuzco, Tiwanaku, Göbekli Tepe.
Is that deliberate? To survive future floods, build above the potential high watermark?
Like the Hopi tradition of the Anasazi's place of emergence and being told not to stay too long in one place. A memory of upheaval.
Could be. And now science is catching up, with more acceptance of major comet impacts around the Younger Dryas, 10,800 BC.
Causing massive destruction, melting ice caps, sea level rise, climate chaos. Exactly matching the descriptions in things like the Popol Vuh or the Akkadian-era epic.
And ancient records from the Chaldeans, the Chinese, noting changes in planetary orbits over long periods, suggest they knew celestial cycles could cause chaos on Earth.
Like the Piri Reis map showing Antarctica before the ice, hinting at massive Earth changes, maybe crustal displacement.
A very different world map in the distant past. Diodorus even wrote about the gods choosing southern Egypt to rebuild after a cataclysm because the climate was stable near the equator.
And different groups of gods involved: Shebti, builder gods, seven sages, preserving and rebuilding.
Echoing Polynesian stories of lost homelands, Hawaiki, Kahiki Homokele sunk by floods, survivors scattered, the Hawaiian Nuu building his boat on Mauna Kea.
What about those strange figures in Horseshoe Canyon, Arizona? The ghost panel.
Tall, cloaked figures. Clifford Mahudi, the Zuni elder, connects them to Star People traditions common among the Hopi and Zuni.
The Hopi believe they've been on the continent for ages. Their village, Walpi, means place of the watchers.
And Sotiknong, the sky god's messenger, tasked with creation after the flood. Are watchers, katsinas, star people all facets of the same idea?
Beings moving between worlds with advanced astronomical knowledge. The Starwalkers mentioned for the Urukehu in NZ, Easter Island, Tiwanaku.
It's a compelling thread, and sometimes there are modern echoes, like that personal account you mentioned.
Seeing hooded, cloaked figures inside Khephr's pyramid in total darkness, and others reporting similar things.
It's unsettling, and it makes you look again at the pyramids themselves. Menkar's pyramid, the sophisticated construction.
Using mica and insulator, fitting huge granite blocks in tight spaces.
Oh, how?
Hydraulics, sound levitation.
And the water erosion on those hard stones in that dry climate points to exposure to water long ago.
More cyclical destruction themes. Tahiti talks about a great flood during darkness, then gods restoring order. The Pleiades linked to death.
And the Egyptian god Thoth, or Twet, having 42 books of all knowledge fiercely guarded. Always this focus on preserving wisdom through the cycles. Obsession with long astronomical cycles.
Orion again. Master of creation, source of kingship, fertility symbol in different cultures.
And the Anasazi, maybe people of remote times of Anusinum mirroring Orion on the ground with their maces.
The Hopi winter solstice ceremony in the Kiva, aligning with Orion's belt, symbolizing death, rebirth, honoring their origins.
It's all deeply interwoven, which brings us to something even more modern and strange. Crop circles.
Some early ones look like Native American petroglyphs, referencing the Watchers.
Yeah, and that 1990 glyph at Alton Barnes strongly resembled a Hopi flying shield petroglyph. Communication.
And the Longwood Warren glyph in '95, depicting the solar system with Earth missing.
but conveying accurate astronomical and mathematical data. A message, a warning. It's bizarre.
It's weird how space agencies now are hyper-focused on asteroids and comets.
Just like the ancient gods seemed obsessed with the sky, we're finding more evidence of past impacts, plasma events. The threat is real.
And the Hopi prophecies, foretelling modern technology but also warning about the fate of this fourth world.
Depending on whether humanity follows the Creator's plan, referencing past destructions by fire, ice, flood, are we heading for another cycle?
Looking at our environmental situation, resource depletion. Are these the warning signs now?
It makes you think. This recurring theme of God's seeding civilization, sometimes intervening, maybe the lesson now is different.
Maybe it's about finding the God within ourselves. Was Sotek Neng challenging humanity to grow up, evolve?
Perhaps. Think about consciousness research, the power of collective thought, the energetic properties of ancient sites, designed perhaps to shift consciousness.
Were they tools to help us realize our own potential?
Maybe the ultimate goal wasn't dependency, but for humanity to tap into its own inner power, that magical power of concentrated will, the divine spark.
Wow. This deep dive into these forgotten histories, these ancient mysteries,
Hmm.
it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About cycles, lost knowledge, our place in it all.
Absolutely. So much to consider. What resonates most with you listening to all this? What other connections might be out there waiting?
It certainly feels like there's a much bigger, more complex story to uncover about our past.
Indeed. It pushes us to keep questioning, stay open to possibilities that could really change how we see ourselves in our history.
Until next episode.